My husband betrayed me with my own sister. Now his life is in shambles and I'm thriving without him. I never thought my life would turn into some twisted soap opera, but here we are. My husband, the man I loved, the man I trusted, left me for my sister. And now he's standing outside my door, looking pathetic as hell, begging me to take him back. Too bad for him, I've already moved on. And this time, I'm the one walking away. For context, I'm 32F and my now ex-husband Eric, 34M, and I were married for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but I thought we had a solid marriage. We laughed together, we made plans for the future, and sure, we had our disagreements, but nothing that ever made me think he was capable of betraying me in the worst possible way. Then there's my sister Lena, 30F. She and I were close growing up, or at least I thought we were. We weren't the type of sisters who fought constantly. In fact, I spent most of my life protecting her, supporting her, being the one she ran to when she needed help. But apparently that wasn't enough because the whole time she was sneaking around with my husband behind my back, and I had no clue. Looking back, there were signs, little things I brushed off, moments that should have made me question everything. Lena started showing up at our house more often, always finding some excuse to be around Eric. Oh, I was just in the neighborhood. Eric, you have such great taste in wine. Can I borrow a bottle? You guys are so lucky to have each other. It all seemed harmless at the time. But now I realize she was just warming up to him, planting herself right in the middle of our marriage like a damn weed. And Eric, that lying bat played along. There were late night text messages that he'd quickly swipe away when I walked into the room. There were the times I'd catch them sitting too close together, whispering, sharing looks that made me feel like an outsider in my own home. And still I ignored it. I trusted them both. That was my mistake. The day I found out, my entire world shattered. It was a Tuesday evening and Eric was working late like he had been so often lately. Something in my gut told me to check his location. I don't know why. I had never been the jealous, paranoid wife, but that night something felt off. So I pulled up his location on my phone, and guess what? He wasn't at work. He was at Lena's apartment. I sat there, staring at my phone, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe he was dropping something off. Maybe she needed help with something, but deep down, I already knew the truth. So I got in my car and drove. And what did I find when I got there? Eric's car parked in her driveway. The lights dimmed inside, and the final nail in the coffin? When I knocked on the door, Lena answered, wearing his damn shirt. She froze. Her eyes went wide, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. And that's when Eric appeared behind her, shirtless, looking like he had just seen a ghost. I can't even describe what I felt in that moment. Shock, rage, humiliation, my own husband, my own sister. I wanted to scream, cry, punch something. Instead, I just stood there, silent, waiting for one of them to speak first. But they didn't, because there was nothing to say. Everything I needed to know was right in front of me. Lena finally stammered, This isn't what it looks like. I laughed, actually laughed. What it looks like, I repeated. It looks like my husband is half naked in my sister's apartment. It looks like you've both been lying to me for who knows how long. Eric ran a hand through his hair, his face pale. I was going to tell you. My blood boiled. Oh, really? When? Before or after you were done screwing my sister? Lena flinched. It's not like that. Shut up, I snapped, turning my glare on her. You don't get to talk. You're my sister. How could you do this to me? Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. I turned back to Eric, my voice calm but ice cold. You know what? Have her. His eyes widened. What? You heard me, I said, stepping back. If she's what you want, then go ahead. You two deserve each other. Then I turned around, walked back to my car, and drove away. And I didn't look back. The next few days were a blur. I packed up Eric's things, dumped them in trash bags, and left them outside our house. I called a lawyer. I told my family what happened. And what did Eric do? Nothing. Not a single call, not a single text. I guess he figured I was just going to accept it, that I'd be too heartbroken to fight back. He was wrong, because I wasn't going to sit around crying. I was going to make sure he regretted every single second of what he did. And as for Lena, well, let's just say, her little fantasy world was about to come crashing down. The first few days after I caught Eric and Lena together, I was numb. I should have been devastated, and in some ways I was, but more than anything, I was furious. Furious that the people I trusted most had betrayed me. Furious that they thought I would just roll over and accept it. But they were about to find out just how wrong they were. I wasn't going to just walk away quietly. I was going to make sure they regretted every second of what they did to me. I blocked both of them immediately. No calls, no text, no explanations. I wanted them to sit in the silence and wonder what I was planning. And the first thing I did, I called my lawyer. I had already made up my mind. I wanted a divorce. Fast. Eric didn't deserve a second chance. He didn't even deserve a conversation. And since I had proof of his infidelity, I was going to make sure he walked away with nothing. When I told my lawyer everything, he was furious on my behalf. "You have a strong case," he assured me, "especially with the evidence of his affair. You'll get the house. He won't be able to fight for alimony, and depending on the financials, you might even walk away with more than you expected." That was exactly what I wanted to hear. Eric wanted to throw away our marriage for my sister? Fine, but I was going to make sure he lost everything in the process. A week passed, and that's when the messages started. Not from Eric, but from Lena. She had tried calling me dozens of times before, but I had ignored every single one. Now she had resorted to sending long, rambling texts about how she never meant to hurt me. "I'm so sorry. Please talk to me. We can fix this. I know you hate me, but I need you to understand. Eric and I didn't plan this. It just happened. You're my sister. I miss you. Please, let's talk." I laughed when I read that last one. She missed me? The same sister who stabbed me in the back? Yeah, no. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent the messages to my lawyer, just in case I needed more proof later. But then, 2 days later, the real bombshell dropped. I got a text from our mother. "We need to talk. Now." I sighed. I knew this was coming. I met my parents at their house later that night, already bracing for the conversation. They knew what happened. I had told them everything, and to my relief, they were furious, especially my dad. "You're not welcome here anymore," he had told Lena over the phone. "Don't even think about coming to family events." But my mom, she was softer. And as soon as I sat down at the kitchen table, she gave me that look, the same one she used to give me when I was a kid and she wanted me to be the bigger person. "Honey," she started, "Lena is really struggling with this." "She's struggling?" I asked. "She slept with my husband, Mom. What exactly is she struggling with?" My dad folded his arms, nodding in agreement. But my mom sighed. "I'm not excusing what she did. It was horrible. But she's been calling me crying every day. She knows she messed up. She lost her job." Wait, what? Her boss fired her after someone sent screenshots of her affair to the office. So that's why she was suddenly so desperate to fix things? Her perfect little life was falling apart. Good. "She's not the victim here," I said. "She made her choice, and now she has to live with it." "I just don't want this to ruin our family. Lena did that, not me." Mom sighed again, but she didn't push it, because deep down she knew I was right. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. After 2 weeks of silence, Eric finally reached out. At first, it was just one text. "Can we talk?" Ignored, then another. "I messed up. Please, let's just meet." Ignored. Then came the voicemail. "Please, I'm begging you. I was an idiot. I should have never done this. I love you. I don't want to lose you." I played it twice, just to hear the sheer desperation in his voice. Eric had finally realized that he made the biggest mistake of his life, and I wasn't going to let him forget it. That weekend, I was at a friend's house when my phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't a text. It was a picture from my cousin of Eric, standing outside my house looking like a sad, rejected puppy. I burst out laughing. He had actually shown up. I drove home slowly, taking my time. By the time I pulled into the driveway, Eric was pacing back and forth, running a hand through his hair. When he saw my car, his face lit up, like he actually thought I was happy to see him. "What the hell are you doing here?" I just, I needed to see you, please." "For what?" "To apologize." "For what, Eric? Be specific." He swallowed hard. "For everything. I was an idiot. I don't know what I was thinking." "You weren't thinking at all." He flinched. "How's Lena? We're not together anymore." Of course they weren't. Eric destroyed his marriage for her, and she had tossed him aside the second her life got hard. Couldn't have happened to a better man. "Let me guess. She dumped you the moment she realized you weren't worth losing her family over." He clenched his jaw but didn't deny it. "Wow, I almost feel bad for you." "Does that mean No, his face fell. You thought you could betray me and come crawling back when it didn't work out? I shook my head. You made your choice, Eric. Now you get to live with it. Then, before he could say another word, I walked inside and slammed the door in his face. And God, it felt amazing. Slamming the door in Eric's face should have been the end of it, but of course it wasn't. He didn't leave right away. I watched through the peephole as he just stood there, shifting from foot to foot, running a hand through his hair like he was actually debating whether or not to knock again. Then, finally, after what felt like forever, he turned and walked back to his car. I half expected him to speed off in embarrassment, but instead, he just sat there, like a pathetic loser who had nowhere else to go. I went about my night ignoring him, but when I checked an hour later, he was still there. And honestly, I found that hilarious. He had been so sure of himself when he left me for Lena, so smug, so convinced that he had traded up. Now here he was, sitting alone in his car outside the home he used to share with me, realizing he had thrown away everything. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail. Eric. Again. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't slept. I get it. You hate me. You have every right to, but please, just talk to me. Let me explain. I rolled my eyes and deleted it. There was nothing left to explain. He had chosen my sister. He had lied to my face. He had betrayed me in the most humiliating way possible. Now that his fantasy had crumbled, he thought he could just waltz back into my life? Not a chance. But Eric wasn't the only one trying to crawl back. A few days later, I got a message from Lena. She had already sent me dozens of texts, all ignored. But this one made me laugh out loud. I miss you. I know I messed up, but I don't want to lose my sister. Please, can we talk? As if we could ever just pretend this didn't happen. She didn't miss me. She missed the life she'd destroyed. She missed being part of the family, missed having people who actually cared about her. But now, she had no one. My parents weren't speaking to her. Our relatives cut her off completely. Her job was gone, thanks to someone, not me, but someone amazing sending proof of her affair to her boss. And Eric? Yeah, that situation didn't last long either. Turns out Lena had expected him to step up and take care of her once she lost her job. But Eric, he could barely take care of himself. So they started fighting. A lot. And before long, Lena kicked him out. She blew up her entire life for him, and he turned out to be just as much of a disappointment as she was. Karma. Meanwhile, my life was getting better every single day. The divorce was moving fast. My lawyer made sure I got everything, the house, the car, and enough money to make sure I never had to think about Eric again. And the best part? Eric didn't even fight it. He was so beaten down, so pathetic, that he just signed the papers and walked away. I expected to feel some kind of sadness when it was all finalized, but honestly, all I felt was relief. I was free. A few weeks after the divorce, I was at a coffee shop when I ran into one of Eric's old coworkers. He had always been friendly to me, so when he saw me, he smiled and said, "Hey, how have you been? Heard about the divorce? Honestly, you dodged a bullet." That caught my attention. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? He hesitated, then laughed. Yeah, Eric's been a mess at work. Barely shows up, and when he does, he's always hungover. Guy looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. That? That was interesting. I had been avoiding anything related to Eric, but hearing that he was falling apart while I was thriving, yeah, that felt good. I took a sip of my coffee, grinning. Guess karma caught up with him. The guy laughed. Yeah, seems like it. He really screwed up, huh? Oh, he had no idea. A month later, I got one last message from Eric. It was short. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm sorry. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I truly, genuinely did not care anymore. He was nothing to me now, just a mistake I survived. And I wasn't about to waste another second on him. Meanwhile, Lena was still trying to fix things. She started reaching out to other family members, hoping someone would take pity on her. It didn't work. The last I heard, she moved 3 states away for a fresh start. Guess she realized she had burned every bridge she had. Oh well, that wasn't my problem anymore. Now, I'm happier than I've ever been. I moved into a new place, started dating again, and surrounded myself with people who actually deserve to be in my life. Losing Eric wasn't a tragedy. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And as for him, well, last I heard, he's living in a crappy apartment, drinking his feelings away. Not my problem. Not anymore. It's funny how life works. A year ago, I was married, living what I thought was a happy life, completely unaware that my husband and my sister were sneaking around behind my back. Now, I'm thriving. And them? They're nothing to me. After the divorce was finalized, I expected Eric to finally leave me alone. But of course, he didn't. Even though I ignored every text, every call, every pathetic attempt to explain, he still tried to squeeze his way back into my life. At first, he kept it simple. I miss you. Can we talk? I know I don't deserve another chance, but I need to see you. Then, when I didn't respond, he tried guilt tripping me. I lost everything. I have nothing without you. I'm broken. I don't even recognize myself anymore. I think about you every day. Please, just one conversation. Still ignored. Because guess what? That wasn't my problem. Then one night, I got a call from a random number. I normally don't pick up, but I was expecting a call from a delivery service, so I answered. And of course, it was him. I almost hung up, but before I could, he spoke. Please, don't hang up. Just let me say this. I rolled my eyes but stayed silent. I ruined everything. No, Sherlock. I was stupid. I let Lena get in my head and I convinced myself I wanted something else. But I was wrong. It was always you. It was always supposed to be you. I actually laughed. You don't love her, I said, finishing the sentence for him. He exhaled sharply. No, I never did. I don't know what I was thinking. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. You weren't thinking at all. I hate myself for hurting you. Good. Silence. You're really never going to forgive me, are you? I let that hang between us before finally answering. No. And then I hung up. That was the last time I ever heard Eric's voice. After that, I blocked his number for good. I didn't care if he was broken. I didn't care if he was lost without me because I had found myself without him, and I wasn't about to let him pull me back into his pathetic little spiral. Lena, on the other hand, she took longer to get the message. She kept reaching out to family, trying to get someone, anyone, to take her side. It didn't work. No one wanted anything to do with her. She tried playing the victim, telling people she was young, she made a mistake, she never meant to hurt me. But the thing is, she wasn't that young. She was old enough to know exactly what she was doing. And no one bought her excuses. The last I heard, she moved away, hoping to start fresh. Good for her. She could start fresh without me. Meanwhile, my life just kept getting better. I sold the house and moved into a gorgeous new place, one that felt completely mine. I traveled, I went out with friends more, I started dating again. At first, I was hesitant. I had spent so long being lied to that I wasn't sure I could trust someone new. But then I met someone, and for the first time in forever, I felt like me again. He was kind, funny, a breath of fresh air after spending years with someone who had treated me like an option instead of a priority. And the best part? He actually respected me. A low bar, I know, but after Eric, it felt like a whole new world. One day, I was at a cafe when an old friend walked up to me. Hey, wow, you look amazing, I smiled. Thanks, have you been? She sat down across from me, lowering her voice. You won't believe who I saw last week. I already had a feeling. Eric? She nodded. Yeah, he looked rough. I tilted my head. How rough are we talking? She sighed. Like he hasn't slept in weeks rough, like drinking at a bar alone at 3 p.m. rough? That? That was interesting. I didn't care, but I won't lie, it felt damn good to know he was still miserable. Guess karma did its thing, I said, sipping my coffee. She laughed. Oh, it definitely did. A few weeks later, I got a final message from an unknown number. It was Eric. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I know I can't fix what I did, and I know you'll never take me back. But I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. And honestly, for the first time, I didn't feel anything reading his words. Not anger, not sadness, just nothing. Because he didn't matter anymore. I smiled, deleted the message, and went back to living my life. I won't pretend what happened didn't hurt me. It did. But I also won't pretend that losing Eric was some great tragedy. Because in the end, I won. He threw away a loyal, loving wife for a cheap affair that didn't even last. He destroyed our marriage, our life, everything we built, and for what? For nothing. Now he was just another mistake I survived, and me, I was happier than ever.